You probably suck at saying no. Most people suck at saying no. Slay the Spire is a game that can teach you how and when to say no. Let me explain. Imagine that you had 3 friends that all invited you out to different things. One maybe invited you out to a dinner with other friends, one asked you to help him move, and a third asked you to go hit up the clubs, for example. Now, what if I presented these choices to you like this? Oh, this is easy. That choice felt so much easier, right? My point is, the games that we play can teach us how to do the things that we want to do better pretty well already. We just have to know that this is what they're teaching us and then how to apply it. I'm just getting started with what Slay the Spire could teach us. If for some reason you're not familiar with Slay the Spire, you play as a character who's climbing to the top of this spire in the game to try to escape it, I suppose. We do this by charting a path through 3 different maps and then beating a boss at the end of each of these maps. Each step on this tower map can be one of multiple different things. It could be these little question marks that could be like a random event or a number of different things. It could be a shop, you could get a treasure room, or most commonly, you would get enemy encounters. What you need to know is that in order to win these enemy encounters, we have to play cards to either deal damage or protect ourselves from dealing damage. If we ever lose all of our hit points, then, well, we die. We have to start over from the very beginning with the starter deck that your character gets. And after every battle, we're offered a chance to get a new card. And these cards are always, well, they're either ways to deal damage or ways to defend yourself in some way. So if you're always offered more ways to deal damage or more ways to defend yourself, this is always great. We should always be picking this, right? Maybe not. So if you're like me, you probably didn't even notice that there was a skip option the first couple times that you were offered a chance to actually add a card to your deck. And honestly, the first time that I actually did notice it, I thought that it must have something to do with some kind of weird achievement or like some kind of streamer challenge to, you know, beat the whole Slay the Spire tower without adding any cards to your deck or something like that. It feels like the equivalent of, you know, choosing a stat that you want to increase at the end of like a typical RPG, right? Like, do you want to get stronger with strength or magic or MP, HP, something like that. And I know in those games, I'd never really would want to miss an opportunity to do that. So why would I want this opportunity in this game? It just doesn't seem to make very much intuitive sense, right? And this is the most unintuitive mechanic in Slay the Spire. Once you actually figure out how strong it is to click that skip button, that's when you really start climbing the tower and actually getting better at the game. Skipping a card actually offers you the chance to streamline your deck in a way that adding a card might not actually improve you. When you're playing this game, you only draw a certain number of cards. And when you're drawing those cards, if you add more cards to your deck, you have a higher chance of not drawing the cards that you need in order to actually progress. My point is, if you skip the opportunity to add cards that might not actually improve your deck, you are actually effectively getting stronger by maintaining the cards in your deck and the deck integrity. And this is the most unintuitive mechanic in Slay the Spire. Once you figure this out, once you realize that by skipping cards, you actually might get a little bit stronger, that's when you really start to climb the tower. That's when this game starts to make sense. So this game has 4 different characters that you can choose from, and each of these 4 characters have like a different starter deck and unique cards that you can pick throughout your climb. This Ironclad character, he focuses mostly on strength or exhausting his cards in order to progress, and he'll have a lot of cards that will be focused around that, either improving your strength or dealing damage or drawing other cards when you exhaust other cards out of your deck. The Silent here can focus on one of 2 mechanics, either focusing on poison or focusing on shivs. And these shivs are a card that costs 0 but exhaust once you use it, and you can use different cards in her deck in order to either buff the shivs or to draw a whole bunch of them and generate a whole bunch of them throughout your playthrough. Once you learn the mechanics inside of each deck, you start to understand the synergies between these decks. That's when you start to improve even more. So now let's use an example. Imagine that you're playing the Ironclad. You have a strength deck that's doing pretty well. You finished the first 2 major bosses. You're on Act 3. You're about to get to the heart. Your deck has been playing pretty well. You've been drawing exactly what you want, and you're going through each battle without losing too much health. Okay, so now we just finished a battle, and now we're offered a chance to actually add a card into our deck. We can add a Clash, an Anger, or a Flame Barrier. The Clash we probably won't take just because, well, it's hard to play in this deck. We have a lot of skills, so in order to play it, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And on top of that, if we draw it, we're not that happy to see it. I mean, we already have a lot of other ways to deal damage in the deck, so probably not Clash. Anger kind of makes sense in something like this. It's a low cost. We can always play it. Maybe not. It's not exactly what we want for a deck like this, but it's not a terrible card to pick. And then thirdly, we have Flame Barrier. Now, Flame Barrier actually kind of makes sense in a deck like this. First of all, we have Brimstone in this deck, so this means that every single turn, we're going to be gaining more and more strength. What I'm trying to say is, the longer that a fight goes without us dying to the damage that the enemies are going to be able to deal, the more damage that we'll be able to deal ourselves, and we'll finish the fights. So if we can add more block and have enemies take damage as they try to attack us, well, this makes sense. But even if this is the best option out of the three, it still makes the most sense to actually pick none of them. That's right, we just want to skip here because our deck already does exactly what we want it to. It makes more sense to just move on, saying no. And like I said, none of these cards here are really bad except maybe Clash, but picking any one of these decks might not ruin our entire run. But if we want to actually get better at Slay the Spire, we're going to have to learn when to say no and when it's optimal to say no. Because if we just decide, well, this is the best out of the three every time, we're going to end up with a hand full of cards that we don't want eventually. And this is just like in real life. Sometimes saying no in real life can feel counterintuitive. How on earth could saying no to something, well, improve me in some way? It sometimes can't, right? None of the things that were offered to me were bad things, right? And honestly, it feels like we ought to pick one, especially if they were offered to us nicely. And also, I kind of want to point this out, like in a lot of cases, if you don't have anything else on your deck going on, then the right choice is to pick one of the three. It is to pick something to fill your deck. And this is true in real life too. If you have nothing else going on, then maybe the best thing is for you to go out with your friends or help your friend move or go hit the clubs, give it a shot. Who knows? My point is, if you have something that's working for you, well, in real life too, you want to be able to understand that it is working for you and then be able to move on, be able to say no, be able to adapt. But if you are early on your run, just like in Slay the Spire, if you keep saying no every single time because they're not the perfect cards, well, you're going to end up on the fifth floor losing to the elite boss because you have nothing in your deck to actually move you forward. Wow, this is really good advice. I didn't even really have to reach for this one. Slay the Spire isn't only good at teaching you this though. All games can be low-stakes environments for high-stakes skills that you can actually use in your real life. And like I said before, you're passively learning this. If you're playing games, you're learning these skills just naturally. It's just a matter of time before you can actually apply them into your real life. So like I said, Slay the Spire doesn't just teach us how to say no, but it also highlights the actual value of saying no by giving us opportunities to remove cards in order to, like I said before, streamline our deck. It actually costs money in shops to remove cards. This concept, again, was extremely wild to me when I first saw it. Like, it makes no sense. Why would I pay a shopkeeper to take something out of my deck and effectively, in my mind, make me weaker? That makes no sense. But in reality, this is super close to real life. You oftentimes will need to remove something in your life, something that you might have started with and something in your routine that you think is working for you in order to actually streamline yourself so that you can improve and that you can excel. Don't get stuck on something in your deck just because you like the way that it looks, or maybe you think it's a rare card or something like that. Remove the stuff in your life that is stopping you from moving forward. Be able to identify it and take it out regardless of the cost. Do it because it's worth it, right? If we see that it's worth it in the game, why can't we notice this in our real lives as well? One more thing that this game also teaches us how to identify is deck archetypes and when not to get set on deck archetypes. So I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but deck synergies is a great way to play this game. This is like one of the main core mechanics of Slay the Spire is, well, you learn through playing the game that certain cards work together extremely well. The thing is that no matter how hard you try, you might sometimes just not get the cards that you want to get. Maybe that one piece of the synergy isn't there, and that's the key piece of the synergy that you need in order to actually make this deck work. This is actually probably one of the reasons why Slay the Spire is so addicting, is because figuring these synergies out feels really good, and then like being able to execute them better and better each time, each ascension that you do, I mean, it just feels really good. Getting a chance to actually get one of the decks that you've been vying for, that feels really good when you can actually eventually do it, right? So as we play this game, we kind of get better at two different things. One, identifying the core mechanics to these deck archetypes. So which cards are actually able to enable a build that we're trying to make. And two, when to realize that the cards that we've gathered are only part of an archetype, and we should not reject cards based solely on the idea that they don't belong in the deck that we're trying to build based on the few cards that we do have. This, unironically, is also fantastic real-life advice. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Allow yourself flexibility in your life. The fact that you have a couple cards that might enable a Shiv deck does not mean that you should not take any cards that could work well in a poison deck. Just like a degree or work experience in one field should not prevent you from applying to a job in a different field that could be a really good fit for you. So I could go on and on about this game and how, honestly, how much this game really does tie into real life. And maybe I just want to encourage you to maybe think about some of the things in your life, the decisions in your life, frame them as a Slay the Spire choice. Maybe that'll actually help you understand from a different perspective what's going on, and maybe help you to make the decisions that you need to make and make them better. And like I said, I could go on and on more about this, but this is kind of the point of the video where YouTube really does punish me if I don't talk about something else now. So if you do want to hear a little bit more about this, you can check out my Patreon there. All of the reviews there that I do about these games are free, but of course, if you would like to support this work, that's a fantastic place to do it. So go ahead and check that out. The final thing that I wanted to bring up, though, before wrapping this up, is that this game, while it's probably the best game that I've reviewed so far as to what could actually improve your life and how it could actually help you, is that this game is probably the most addicting game that I have actually reviewed on this channel so far. I had to literally uninstall this game so that I could finish writing and editing this video. We cannot apply the things that Slay the Spire teaches us if we're only playing Slay the Spire. There's genuinely no end to this game. I mean, it is so much fun. You can just keep playing, and then every time you get up to the top again, you have another session to go, you have a different character to try. It's really hard to stop playing. So I will say, with a huge caveat, this game is fantastic for actually learning and applying things into your real life. However, you have to be able to put it down. If you can't put it down, then, I mean, yeah, that's a big part of it. So with all that said, here's a quick breakdown. I'm just put it on the left here. This is all, like I said, all on the Patreon, kind of like in more detail, but here's the report card, looking pretty. It gets a 10 out of 10 on this scale. It's fantastic. It's such a good game for learning how to actually do something in your real life. And the lessons that you can learn while you're playing this game are not only really good for your life, but they're easy to move into your actual real life. Like, you don't have to work very hard in order to shift your frame of mind to actually say that this is a real example and a real choice that I'm making in my real life, if that makes sense. So like I said, it gets a 10 out of 10 with a huge caveat. Please don't play this game too much. I mean, play it and learn all the things from it. But once you learn from it, make sure you know how to put it down and then actually go out in the real world, try to apply it. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this content, you like all this content, then I got another video up on the screen right now for you. And there's plenty more to come. If you don't like that one, there's another one out on the screen right now as well. Check that one out instead. Huge shout out. Thank you very much to Joe Beans for being the Patreon, the first Patreon subscriber. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace out. This program was made possible by contributions to your Patreon channel. Thank you.